Howdy guys, today we are going to be installing Linux Mint on a virtual machine, which is running on Windows. There's a lot of Windows users who are not too happy with their life choices, so let's make it a little easier for them by switching to Linux. So, the first thing we need is the latest Mint ISO file. So we head over to linuxmint.com and click the download button. Linux Mint has a few flavors, but I'd recommend the Cinnamon Flagship Edition if this is your first crack at Linux. But for this video, I'll be using the XFCE edition. And we then choose a download mirror that's closest to us. For some reason, I need to scroll all the way to the end, despite my country starting with the letter A. Maybe someone misunderstood what down under means. Just save the ISO file. For our VM, we will be using Oracle's Virtualbox, so just head over to the Virtualbox website and download the free installer for Windows. I've tried this on Linux too, and it's pretty good. Righto, I'm not going to go over installing Virtualbox, as that should be pretty easy. When running it, you should see something like this. I have a couple Linux virtual machines running and saved already. Your sidebar will probably be empty. So let's hit New and get started on Linux Mint. So the name field is just a label, but let's call it Linux Mint, obviously. The folder can stay as is. This is where Linux Mint will be saved. For the ISO image, we select Other, and then browse to where we downloaded the Linux Mint ISO file from earlier. So for type, subtype, and version, I generally leave this as is. Virtualbox will choose the right one based on the ISO. Sometimes I've had to switch to the 64-bit version, but they generally get it right. Oh, and there's a skip unattended installation that you will need to check if it shows up. This is because we are running the Mint Live CD, which does its own installation from within. Yeah, and memory. The default at 512 meg is way too little, so bump that up as much as it allows. Now, if you have never tried Linux, the concept of a live CD is probably new to you. It is a fully functional Linux system that runs off of a DVD or ISO image, so think of it as a sort of try before you buy situation. Anyway, we now essentially have our virtual machine ready to boot the Linux Mint Live CD into. So let's do that next. We just hit start to begin. Awesome, so here we have our Linux Mint Live CD startup screen. I'm just going to adjust the view mode on the virtual machine so it resizes how I like it to. This isn't a Linux specific thing, so just choose how you want the VM to work. And once you're ready, just use the arrow keys and hit enter to choose Start Linux Mint. Nice, and here we are. Welcome to the dark side, or the minty side in this case. Now, even though this looks like an installed operating system, this is all still running off of the live CD. So if we restarted the virtual machine, any changes we made would just be lost. So we need to install Linux onto the VM, similar to how you would with a real computer. Righto, we've had a bit of a play on the live CD and we want to install. So click the Install Linux Mint icon on the desktop and let's get started. Linux Mint is one of the easiest distros to install, so we just need to make some keyboard and language selections. No complex commands here. Oh wow, looks like I suck. Linux Mint needs 15 gig of disk space and we only have 8. My fault completely, guys. Well, but let's use this as a chance to show off some of the more advanced settings on Virtualbox. Let's turn off our VM and see if we can add more storage to make up the 15 gig. Okay, so it looks like in the VM settings and the storage tab, we can add a new hard drive, which in this case is more than 15 gig. Now remember, these are all virtual hard drives. So long as you have enough space free on your actual hard drive, you can set up as many VM ones as you need. And finally, we need to replace it instead of the 8 gig drive we used earlier. Righto, take 2. I'll just 2x this in the video so we don't have to watch it again, and hopefully no error this time. Nice, so we made it past the error from last time. We now need to select Install Multimedia Codecs, and then Erase Disk and install Linux Mint. Now remember, this is the virtual disk we set up 2 minutes ago, so not your actual hard drive, just your virtual one. It sounds kind of scary, but we're Linux users now, so no fear. And we set up a user account. Unlike on Windows, Linux has always had better user management, so make sure you fill this in. And away we go. Install is running. Nice work, guys. We are almost in the home stretch. Time for a cup of tea while the installer does its thing. Finally, with the magic of editing, we are back, and our tea is drunk, and we haven't installed Linux Mint on our VM. All we need to do is to restart our VM from within, and we should be ready for our wild ride to begin. Mint does automatically remove the live CD, so the next time the VM starts, it's from the installed system, not the VM. But if you find the VM booting back into the live CD, you might need to go into the settings on the VM and eject it this way. So let's boot our new installed Linux by hitting Start. Let's log in with the password from earlier, and here we are. There's a nice welcome screen, which will give you a nice primer, or you can skip it if you prefer. I usually start with adjusting the screen resolution so things are nice and clear. Mint is pretty nice with its search and categorizing of applications, so you should be able to find a matching Linux tool to do the job a Windows app did. Okay guys, hope that was a nice little tutorial on installing Linux Mint on a VM on Windows. It's a good way to trial run. If you can do the switch with no risk, I would definitely recommend Mint as one of the easier distros to start with, but really, this process will work with most Linux distros. Anyway, as always, like and subscribe. Until next time.